Meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Butler.
Here.
Ward.
Here.
Essing.
Here.
Knopfsinger.
Here.
Armstrong. McNutt.
Here. Do we have the student council to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you state your name and what grade you're in and a little bit about what student council's been up to?
I'm Faith, I'm a senior.
I'm Cole Ludoff, and I'm a senior.
I'm Noah Amsky, and I'm a junior.
I'm Ben Jane, I'm a senior. A few things that Student Council has been doing recently. Last week we made this shirt and I wore it tonight to show it off. It's for two of our teachers at our school who are suffering from brain tumors and brain cancer. We sold these last week and raised over $400. We also had a dodgeball tournament last night in honor of them, where teams competed, and all the proceeds went to both Mrs. Fuller and Mr. Brown. I'm sure most of you know who they are. And in recent weeks, we have raised an upwards of $4,000 for both of them.
That's outstanding.
$4,000.
We see those T-shirts all over now since they
Yeah.
came on Friday and Saturday nights. So
Yeah, we had the, this was the theme for the student section was gray, or wear your Mrs. Fuller, Mr. Brown shirt. So, and then we're most likely going to do it again. And we played Morton in boys basketball on Saturday, and they all wore shirts to honor Coach Brown as well that they had made. So we played them again in January, and I think we're both going to wear our shirts together.
Outside of just the brain cancer research and stuff like that, we have also been doing a lot of the Friday Christmas Assembly and Spirit Week throughout this week. So we're kind of excited for that we've been able to kind of put that together as a club.
Any questions for? No, but I know a lot of people wearing pajamas leaving school.
Yeah.
Pajama day, right?
First day.
There was also good newspaper coverage.
Yes, very good.
Well, you're welcome to stay, or you can leave if you'd like. Thank you for coming in.
And actually tonight we are having, I'm going to leave quickly because tonight we're having a fundraiser at Buffalo Wild Wings. And so they're giving some of the proceeds to the cancer research as well.
Great.
Cole, did you apply for a grant in one of your classes?
Yes, I did.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? That's
Well,
kind of neat.
okay.
It's off at a student council, but
So recently, in my chemistry class, I have to do an independent study project. And so I partnered up with another student in my class, and we decided to do a little research into the safety of our local water, specifically fecal bacteria or E. coli in the Illinois River and wells, groundwater wells. And so we used two of his groundwater well and his grandmother's well as two sources that are he comes in contact with. And then we also knew previously from a USGS study that 10 years ago there had been a lot of fecal bacteria in the Illinois River. So we wanted to update some of that data, and so we decided to do a fecal coliform test through PDC in Peoria. It costs roughly $220 for our testing. So we applied through a grant that was kind of shown to us by one of our mentors, and so we were using this platform from mentor matching. And so our mentor kind of gave us and said, hey, I think this runs well with the project that you're doing. You should apply for this grant so that way it doesn't come out of the pocket of your school, but rather, you kind of worked hard for the money to earn it, and then, you come out debt-free with the end of your project. So we ended up getting $216 to run our entire test, and we don't have any expenses, and we have wonderful data from it. So.
It's like when people save us money, right? Good job. Thanks for all your hard work on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? You can have the Buffalo Wild Wings.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Order two.
Yeah. Visitors and correspondence, is there anyone that would like to address the board tonight? Reports, 5.1, Dr. Seaver.
All right. This is our investment and insurance report, and you can see where we're at as far as all of our investments go. Insurance, we got a little bit closer in October to our break-even line, which is good. We did have an insurance committee meeting last Wednesday, and we're tracking outside of that month of September where we had a lot of claims that came on in. If we do a side-by-side comparison where we're at between last year and this year, we're still ahead of the game. The specific reimbursement, the stop loss, we'll probably have some claims that will be coming and we'll be getting some reimbursement with that. So that's the insurance and investment report. Do you have any questions in regard to that?
I don't believe so. It's pretty self-explanatory, and thanks for putting it together. Any other questions for Dr. Seaver? Moving on to the Dean's report, 5.2, an enrollment report. He's brought that up on the screen. Looks like our enrollment's still up there. We have a nice, large freshman class. Okay. Any questions?
One question I had, because I can see where our enrollment is right now, but I just wondered, is it holding steady? Is this school year, if we lose students, are there others coming in? So basically, it's holding steady during the year without losing students.
Our 6th enrollment was 1383.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd say we're holding pretty steady.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we're almost at semesters then.
Yes.
And then we'll lose mid-year graduates. We expect that. So we're holding very steady. That's great.
Moving on to 5.3, the board committee reports. We had insurance, and Joe just updated us on insurance. Facilities met twice since the last meeting? Once, and then we are approving minutes from before.
Yeah, this is once. It was once because we had Thanksgiving in there. We had one in early November, right before the last board meeting, and then most recently.
And we're approving minutes for 2 of them, so that's why we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. The facilities met. We had PJ Hare and Farnsworth there. We went over some of the bleacher projects and the band and chorus room project, and then we also went over what some of the overages and underages might be. Well, underage is a word, but credits would be a better term. And we're just kind of standing our course on line with that. We've made a little bit of possible changes to the stadium seating, and that will be addressed later in the meeting. I don't know, is there anything else?
Well, there's just a security meeting, I guess what they call it, and some discussion and went over. It looks like everything's going well. A couple recommendations I think that they had, but most of them I think we were already working on anyway, requests they had. So I think we were already on those things. So well.
And then curriculum met. Anybody want to talk about curriculum?
We had about 10 course changes or additions. Those will be brought up under an action item under 8.5, so I won't go into detail. I have the copies of them here. They were very well explained with the rationale for any changes or additions that were made. So we'll discuss those later. We talked at length about something that had been brought up in our goals before, and that was additional vocational options. Training for those students who aren't college-bound or will be college-bound but still choose a vocational end for their career, and 2 career pathways that is being talked about with the administration. They explained that to us, networking possibly with other programs or ICC that are available, but it's still in the planning stage. And it's something that isn't cheap, and there are so many options for them that it's going to take some careful planning, but it's underway. We talked too about more online curriculum courses because that's coming in the future. It's already in the college levels, and we want to make it available for those students who prefer that at the high school level, and those plans are also underway and can be discussed later with Mrs. Stevens or Dr. Freeman. We also gave support for the detailed plans about the continued professional development of our faculty, because just as we put in new courses, we want to constantly upgrade our faculty and their ability to increase their teaching quality and potential. And those are already in place. The curriculum committee heard about those in detail in an earlier meeting. And it's just supporting that because I think it's well brought out and it's a long-range plan. And I think the teachers are appreciative of it and in agreement that that would get them where they too want to go. So did I forget anything?
No, other than I think some of the topics are going to be geared towards what our board goals will be.
Yes, that was one of our goals.
Part of the
to really
discussion is
do
that-
some early discussion
Right.
about curriculum goals that we can add and or cover in our January 28th meeting as to the total board goals.
Any questions for curriculum? Okay, I believe that was all of our committee reports, right? Okay. 5.4 is our business tech, and that's Tara Feldman.
I was going to say that in my 4th hour today, one of the students said, "Have you noticed how nice the teachers are being today?" And someone's like, "It's because they're all wearing pajamas." So I think that they were, so that might be coming up here soon. So to start off here, just our team, and as you can see, most of us have been here for a very long time. This is my 16th year, I believe my 15th year as the department chair. So I've done a couple of these in the last couple of years. And we will have some transitions here in the next couple of years. Carol Wilson is retiring at the end of this year, and then I believe Jim Tenhaken has about 3 years left. So you will see some changes in our department also. The next 3 slides are just our program of studies and the classes that we offer. We do have a wide range of classes. Most of us are singleton teachers, and so you will see quite a bit of classes within our department, especially because we are kind of 3 separate departments brought into one large department. So I'll just click through those. Our graduation requirements is that consumer ed requirement, just 1 semester of consumer, or they could take a year of introduction to technology or 1 year of CWT. And then OTT, orientation to technology, it's 1 semester. So we have 13 sections throughout the school year, and then we offered 4 sections during summer school. So our accomplishments are pretty large, and we work really, really hard at these types of things. So Carol Wilson received last year the IEA Silver Apple Award, and for years, I don't even know how many years, our drafting team has received first place in this regional drafting competition. Kurt Whisker, when I asked him about it to update it, he said they've actually just given us the trophy because it doesn't go anywhere else. So Washington just holds the trophy and we keep it forever, I guess. So, we work hard at our local grants, and you will see that our community service and our grants is just kind of what we hold near and dear to our heart as a department. Personnel, so these are just things that we've accomplished over the last 2 years. I received a early childhood education teacher certification to be able to teach students to get ECE level 1 credentials, and I'll talk about a little bit more about that. Also through EFE, they offer these summer practicums. So 2 of our teachers took a week and spent some time at the Sewing Center and at Caterpillar. Sarah Eggy has worked really hard about updating the curriculum for this computer science class, which you're going to see also later. But she spent an entire week over the summer and continues to go through training for this code.org, and it's all about introducing schools to computer science. Last week, Jeff Brooks went to an advisory council with the State Board of Education and community colleges, and spent time with them just trying to update how we can bring those pathways from community colleges to the high school and working with the high school and seeing what, all the community colleges want the high schools to do and what we can do to better service our students. For our personnel, 7 of our members, 7 out of the 9 of them have master's degrees. 6 of them can teach co-op, and then these are just the conferences that our department has attended over the year or two. 70% of our entrepreneurship and innovation students passed the college credit exam, and I think this is crazy. We had 57 students come out for robotics, and 95% of them are going into STEM-related areas when they graduate high school, so I thought that was really cool. And in our first year here of this ECE Level 1, I should certify about 60 students to get that certification, so when they graduate high school, there will be 60 students that are this Level 1 credential. And it's just an awesome opportunity for them to kind of get that foot in the door and to be a leg up from anyone else. And it is a new certification. Lots of schools in the area started teaching it, and we're going to pilot it this year, but I just think it's an awesome opportunity for those kids. And then this is just about the tech support internship class. And this very bottom one that says students are building 12 new computers. I talked to Jeff about this. So we get EFE money each year, and so we purchased 12 new computer parts. So I went down there and the entire room was filled with computer boxes, and they were going to build these new computers. So they built one, put it all together, and it worked perfectly. And so they were super excited, and they're like, go ahead, go build all the rest of them. So they go and build them, they don't work. And so they were able to go back and really troubleshoot and figure out what was wrong with them. And Jeff said, I think it was even better that it didn't work, because it gave them now the opportunity. We're making phone calls and we're trying to figure it out. We've gone backwards and we're really troubleshooting as a whole. And he said, so I think that's been a better learning experience than if we just would have put them together and they worked the first time, because that's not really what life is about, right? So we don't always get things the very first time. So he said, I didn't think that it was a good thing, but as the week has gone, it's been a much better, problem for us to have, because we've had to work as a whole to get those up in the next couple of weeks. I would assume they'll be up and moving. So, ironically enough, you're talking about these pathways, and this is our #1 goal this year. It'll probably take us 2 years, maybe even longer, to work on these pathways. As a department, we started to realize that what we wanted, these pathways, so students that are graduating from high school to have an idea of what they want to do after. And we take this career cruising, which is now going to be called Zello, or there's some changes within that, and we don't do anything else with it. And so for our students, we want to do something different. With our department and all of the other departments, we have these career cluster pathways. So there are 16 career clusters, and I'm just going to show you one, this education one. So everyone wants to be a teacher, right? And so you can see that at the top here, these are the career-related courses. So these are courses that, as a department, we have said, this is what you should take if you want to be a teacher. And we've broken them down and said, as a freshman, you should do this. As a sophomore, you should do this. So you can see what we're kind of thinking. As we sat down as a department, we said, well, this shouldn't just be us. We shouldn't be the only ones that have this input. So we've met with the other departments, and now they're going to start putting their thoughts in here. So it's kind of brought on this whole, I don't know, how else would I say that? We're really moving forward with this, but it's taking time. It's like a snowball effect, where instead of me just having English electives, the English department is sitting down and saying, these are the specific classes that you should take if you want to be an education major, or if you want to go into computer science. This is what you should take. And this is where it lines up with ICC, and not only has the science department and social studies, they've gone on and looked at every college in the Midwest and said, this is how things are going to match up. So if you want to go to ISU, these are the classes you should take at Washington, and this is how they will transfer over to those colleges. So like I said, it's a long process, but we've really started it and getting the ball rolling here. So we scroll down just a little bit. The other thing and our hope is that when you come in as a freshman, we don't expect you to have any idea what you want to do, but you may have an idea. And so as a parent, you could go on to the website, click on this and say, like, hey, we really think that you should, go up just a little bit for me where there's some clubs and activities. We think you should join robotics team, or we think you should join this club because it's going to help you with your career in the future. And so they're getting these kind of ideas of what they might want to do. The other thing that we have added here, any sort of like applied science degrees, any sort of certificates that they could get, and if you want to scroll down here, then it's just going to show all of the majors that you could have if you have this degree. And also gives like the amount of money you're going to make. And like I said, it's been a big process for us to do, and we're kind of putting it here and there, but it'll probably take us 2 years, I think, to really get it up and going. And our hope is that at a freshman orientation, we say, we have these, this is where they are. And as a parent, go on and look and see what classes we feel, ICC feels, ISU feels you should take if you want to go into this career cluster.
That's impressive.
Thanks. We worked really hard at it.
And it's a whole different approach to what we used to do. What do you want to be? Well, you know, the colleges just got onto this not too long ago.
Right.
There was a time that a major at ICC in education didn't match up if they wanted to go to ISU. They had different requirements, so maybe you have to take 2 or 3 extra courses.
Right.
And I understand now they're beginning to do this too, to make a smoother transition and not make it so difficult for students in their career path. But to bring it down to the high school level is really impressive.
And we are working very closely with ICC just to make sure that we're not, first off, wasting any students' time or their money, and that they're on the right track.
And they get so many of our students.
Exactly. And so many of our kids go there, and if we could just kind of give them a leg up with that, that would be awesome. But like I said, once we got started and we put all of our stuff in there, we were like, well, this can't just be us. We can't be the only ones that have a say in it. And all of the other department chairs have just been super willing to help, and we've had meetings, and it's really been an awesome thing that we're going to be working on. Go back. Our communication is another one of our goals. We continue to bring in guest speakers and online resources, field trips. I took a group of about 30 students to the governor's mansion. It happened to be the day after the election, which might not have been the best time to take a group of students to the governor's mansion, but they willingly let us in, and we had a great time. So student growth, being project-based, we really need to move everything towards rubrics, and so we've spent a lot of time moving everything that way too. Our strengths, I would say our department is probably our biggest strength, just the way that we all work together, and then our resources. We go out and find grants and those types of things, so these are just some companies that we work with on pretty often basis. So our community service, like I said, we always kind of dote on the fact that we spend a lot of time with community service, so they're all listed there and things that we have done. If you happen to be driving back from East Peoria, you might see a billboard with our students' faces on it through United Way, and those students were chosen from their hours of community service that they did last year. And you may not have known that they were Washington students. So they're District 50 students with Washington students. And like I said, those students were featured in a national billboard with United Way. And they're on flyers all over the place. It's just really cool to see that. And then our strengths, just this constant changes every semester with our curriculum. And I've talked about kind of the other ones too. Our weaknesses, just being an elective class and getting people to take our classes. Sometimes our classes are really, really full. Other times they're not. Some departments struggle with this a little bit more. But just being relevant and constantly changing is something. Space restrictions, 30 computers, 30 students. Sometimes it gets a little tight in there. And that ever-changing curriculum, as much as how much we love it, just means that our curriculum is ever-changing, so we're always working really hard. And just not having that one honors class. With that being said, though, one of our opportunities is that top 10's gone now. And so we're going to give some of those students that were playing the game that opportunity to take our classes. And we're really, really excited about that, and we see that as a great opportunity for all students to take our classes. Just this partnership that we've created with ICC, giving our students additional certifications. We are looking at that, and as we sat down, the certifications that we offer here at Washington in the business department, and those things are going to continue to grow, and I think each year we'll just build and build and build on that. We're looking at bringing some additional clubs and organizations to our students, Future Business Leaders of America, and those types of things we're looking into. This is a class, our brand new class that we're going to be introducing. We're going to get rid of website design and add this principles of computer science. The reason why we decided to move a little bit more this way is because the possible majors that students can go into in this growing workforce, computer programming, computer sciences, we felt like we didn't have anything to offer to those students, and we wanted to give them the opportunity to see what it looked like before they got into coding or something a little bit more difficult. So this class will replace website design, and this is where Sarah Aggie took the classes over the summer and has continued to do that. So it'll be called Principles of Computer Science. Our threats, funding, we're oftentimes funded through EFE and getting new things, but we've only received like half of the funding from the state. I know that's hard to believe that we've only gotten half the funding, but just waiting to get some more money. And then that stigma of not being a core class and not always being associated where people see us as, not a core class. And so we're always trying to prove ourselves in that way. These are just our alignment to district goals, like I said. I've already talked about all of these, and we've worked very, very hard to align with what you guys have as your goals are also our goals. Any questions?
It sounds like you've got a lot of cool things going on, a lot of, upgrading and so on, like you always need to do, and so very impressive. And one thing I was interested in, so the pathways to ICC, a lot of those sounded like they were getting kids ready for college level coursework. But I wonder what you're finding about pathways for the more vocational kind of stuff, and like you're doing the child care one. That's a certificate kind of program, right? But I was reading that there are some other schools, like in District 100 up north has like drafting certificate programs and stuff like that, or they can get, what is that, CTE? Is that right? CTE. So teachers in the high school would be teaching a drafting course and they'd get that community college credit. So for those more vocational ed kind of things, how do you find that's working with trying pathways wide?
Well, we have the certificates on here. It is us trying to figure out what we need to do to bring that for the students, because the certificate program is kind of a new thing, and so you have to have very specific types of material sometimes for like the welding programs, and so just us researching those types of certificates to figure out what we need to bring for our students, that's what we're working on this year also, just because think that we can send our kids to ICC maybe to get those types of certificates. But our department has always just really looked at those students that maybe aren't college bound to give them something that they can graduate high school with and leave here and have a certificate to be successful.
Yeah, I think that's a neat idea, because I think it makes you more of a core program, right? I mean, if somebody's deciding not to go on to college, then all of a sudden, a work-related course is core for them.
Right.
And I mean, there was an article in the New York Times today that showed that, not like, if you go to college, you're going to make more, but there are those who go to college who make less actually than a highly trained non-college graduate. Right. So I mean, informing kids that, college doesn't have to be everything if you want to get a good training. And I think that would help make people more incentivized to do well on this sort of standard courses
Right.
as well.
Looking at those middle students, I think, are sometimes forgotten, and bringing these types of things for them. But like I said, it's been a lot of research for us, just trying to learn what we need to do to better help our students.
Yeah, well, I think you guys are a great department because
Thank
you're practical kind of, reason to go to school in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Thank you for putting all the information together. I can tell that you put a lot of time and effort into it. And I know the presentations aren't as fun for department heads, but the reason that we have you do it is so the board, we can get an insight into your department. And then by showing your strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, it's easy to compare between departments of what's happening in your department. And it's a good tool for community members to research and see what's going on in your department. So I appreciate you presenting to us tonight, and I see a lot of good things happening in your departments. You've got a wide variety of different classes, and I wish I had some of these when I was in high school, but we didn't. So I have to move on so that the kids can do that today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else for a question for her? Very nice presentation.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Stick around if you'd like to watch.
Stick around to watch the presentation.
All right, well, I'm going to do this very quickly, just so everybody's had a chance to kind of see it. And I did send you in your weekend update the link to this report card, so you can get on there pretty quickly. But even you can get to it through Board Book. If you open that up, that link will take you directly to our school report card. What you're looking at is the front page of the new interactive report card. I borrowed the mouse. It might be easier for me to do.
Yep.
And so, as you can see, there is, I don't know if I can find the cursor, there are a lot of things running down the side. Okay, so as you look at all of this information, you'll see our graduation rate, student mobility. You can see that we're in commendable status. You can look at our finances. Okay, each one of these things, if you click on them, it opens up and it gives you more information. All right, I do believe that this new format is a very good format. There is quite a bit there, though, I will tell you. It's not something you're going to just sit with for 20 minutes and feel like you got through the whole thing, because that won't happen. So let's talk a little bit about what the adequacy target is. The adequacy target for our school district is $15 million. That is the expected amount that we would receive. I think it's a combination of state and local funds. What's kind of nice about this is what it's showing, we're able to do what we do very cleanly and put money aside still below where the state says we should be. So we've been very responsible with taxpayer money. That's what that tells me. Because we have done a great job with educating our students, as evident in some of the more recent surveys that have come out. You can see things like chronic absenteeism. The two big kickers right now for this report card and how you're rated as far as high school is concerned, the biggest thing is your graduation rate. Over 50% of what they are kind of rating us on is tied to graduation rate. Another 25% is tied to attendance. That's why you see something like this and you look at it and go, what is chronic absenteeism and what does that mean for us? Chronic absenteeism is tied to any student who's missed 10% of the school year or more, either excused or unexcused. So if a kid has an accident and unfortunately ends up in the hospital, that counts towards chronic absenteeism in this particular scenario. That's something we can look at. I think there may be a few things we can do with Skyward to look at what we determine as far as whether or not a student has been present or absent. And those rules are changing pretty quickly, so we're trying to stay on top of it as much as we can, but we're in a pretty good place. That's not what you want to see. I think I'd like to see that go down a little bit, but having said that, we do allow our students and parents a little bit of freedom when it comes to when they're here. The other good news is, and if you really want to take a look at it, look at the things like academic process, you can see some of the information that's out there. For example, 26% of our students take a community college remediation course when they go to a community college. And by the way, that statistic jumped all over the state of Illinois due to a change in the testing. The year before last, it was the Compass test. Last year, they moved to an AccuPlacer, and more kids all over the state ended up getting remediation courses. We're currently working with a pilot project through ICC where they're looking more directly at our transcripts and stepping back away from a test such as an AccuPlacer in order to place students. So I think in the end what we're going to see is we're going to see these numbers drop pretty naturally for us. Our graduation rate is at 91%. Ninth graders on track, 91%. Post-secondary enrollment, you can see we're pretty high, around 80%. So you can look at proficient in ELA and math. All of that is, all you have to do is get into this part of the site and take a look at it. Then there's statistics on district environment, average class size, funding. Once again, you can see some of the information from 5 Essential Survey, our per student expenditures, district finances, average class size, total number of days. That'll change. The rules on how you have to put your calendar together have changed a little bit. This number will become 176. Why? Because it's a mandated number of days that we have to put into the calendar for student attendance, and they changed the rules on the calendars. But we'll talk about that later when we get a chance to really talk about calendars. Student information, you can see a lot of demographic information. All right, student mobility, chronic absenteeism shows up again, chronic truant. This one's probably a little more in the wheelhouse of what we tend to look at when we look at our absenteeism. And the reason for that is these are students who have missed 10% or more and they're unexcused. So chronic truancy is a bigger concern, obviously. Student attendance, we're at about 94%, which cracks me up. Still not sure how that worked out, but okay. Teachers, you can see some of the background on the teachers. If you go in there, you can take a look at demographics, where we're at, teacher-student ratio, average salary, administrators. Same here. Hey, good news, we're not overpaid. There's where the state's at. Just saying that. Hey, by the way, it also works out well for teachers that way too. They're not overpaid either. So, schools in district, 1. And then retired tests, you can look at what we did on the SAT, the PSAE, the ACT. It's all sitting over here in the retired test world. So if you get a chance, spend a little time looking through that. Like I said, there is a lot of information there. And I think when we're focusing in on goals, we'll look at some of this data, but we can't target everything on there, or we go back to that old shotgun approach to how we do goals. And so we want to target some things a little more directly as we move forward. Do you have any questions about the school report card and where we're at?
Some of those things just don't quite seem fair in the way they analyze them. Chronic truant is a little different than the student in the hospital.
Yes.
Who will recover and make up their work. And so I'm not sure that all the evaluation measures are in the school's favor to really reflect what we do, but we're not going to change them, so we deal with it.
Believe it or not, with the chronic absenteeism, we may have some tools where we're able to change that pretty significantly. Because of the way they're talking about doing student attendance, they're giving the opportunity for online type courses. So if we have a student that is in the hospital and they can log in, we might be able to count that as being present in future years. It's a little tricky. We're still trying to get to the bottom of all of that to see what the state wants to do. But I think there's a little bit of room to maneuver within that. I will say one of the things that it seems like is being pushed at us right now is a little more local control. So the calendar rules have changed, but they've changed in a way that gives us a lot more authority through the board, through our local elected officials, in order to determine how we want to do things here at Washington High School. That's a good thing. So even though we see some of these things right now and you look at them and you think, because I do, I look at this stuff and I think, yeah, I don't like that. But at the same time, I'm also recognizing that part of the issue here is tied to old rules that we've been living under. Okay? And once we get all of that worked out, I think we'll see that get back into the realm of where we should see it. I think we'll end up inside of 10% as soon as we can kind of get everything laid out the way we want it to be. So,
I did spend quite a bit of time, as you get into that, you start going into different layers. This isn't even what I was looking for, but could you maybe pinpoint some of that at the goal planning sessions of what you're wanting, direction of how you can see the levers move? Because I don't want to go through every one of those things if it's not important to what we're trying to do.
and a lot of it, what you will see is the data that kind of supports what we were talking about with the goals that we were discussing on programs and services, and some of the pathways discussion we've had along with some of the other things that we've been pushing. So, yes.
It is interesting that they can compile all this information though, so like each school may have a different area that they want to address, or or district would have, but yeah, there's a lot of information on there.
Well, and I think it's valuable information that we need to take seriously, because a lot of people look at this and this is how they, their first maybe exposure to our school is to look at this, so.
It is, and I'm not saying we don't take it seriously, but you can't target everything. There's way too much of
things that are
this.
glaringly
Yeah.
to deal with.
Yeah. So, any other questions?
Any other questions?
All
Thanks for
right.
sharing that with us.
Sure.
Moving on to 6.2, the resignation of Marlene Armstrong. Is that just a discussion? There's no action? That's not action on there. Okay. And that was in our packet. You should have been able to read that. And then under 6.3, is there an other? I had one other, not to go into long detail today, but many of us had the chance to attend the convention up at ISB up in Chicago, and that if you had a chance to go to any interesting classes to come back with information to share, you might be able to bring that to be prepared to bring it to the goal planning session. We'll be able to discuss it further at that time, unless there's something you really want to tell us that you're super excited about that you can't wait. Can't wait. Because I went to quite a few classes that were pretty interesting, that we can implement some of those things, but anything?
I think we got a lot of great information, like I said, for the goal planning session, but probably too much to, nobody wants to hear it now, right?
Okay. All right. Thanks for those that attended. There's a lot of networking there, and also learning from other schools who have already done some of the processes, so you don't have to try to recreate the wheel again. So, okay, moving on to the consent agenda, 7.1. Let me see, let me pull this up here. It's okay, the consent agenda is 7.11, approve the special board meeting minutes of October 29, 2018. 7.12, approve the facilities committee meeting minutes of November 7th, 2018. 7.13, approve the regular board meeting minutes of November 12th, 2018. And then also the bills of 7.12, the activity account transactions, activity account balance sheet, board report, and impressed report. Is there a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Hessen,
Yes.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
McNutt,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes. Motion carries. So, moving on to action items number 8, 8.1, the personnel, approve the leave of absence for Polly Fuller.
And that is just what it says. Polly needs to extend her leave of absence, and we're recommending that you approve that.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve as presented? Second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
McNutt?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Essing?
Yes.
Knopfinger?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 8.2, Dr. Joe Sanders.
Okay, in the signature folder is a whole bunch of documents that at the conclusion of this presentation, the board's going to be asked to adopt the 2018 tax levy. So I need to make sure that the president and the secretary sign all of those documents because, as I'll mention in the presentation, I have to get that all filed before the fourth Tuesday in December. So here's a quick overview of what we're going to discuss. It's the exact same format as last year's presentation. I begin the presentation with some helpful definitions. Most of you have seen these a couple of years at least, and they haven't changed. And this year, truth in taxation, that is required if we extend our extension is more than 5%, which our extension this year is under 5%, so we won't have a truth in taxation hearing. Okay, this is a little bit of information on PTEL and when it was implemented in Tazewell County, and our CPI is a Consumer Price Index, which sets what we can extend our levy above last year's amount. I'd like to spend just a brief moment on this. It's quite helpful for those of us that live in a tax cap county, which Tazewell County is. This has to deal with trying to capture all the dollars that are available underneath the levy. And the example here is that if school districts in a tax cap county decided to not capture all of that, for example, take a $200,000 reduction in their 2018 extension, that reduces this year's extension by $200,000, but it also reduces next year's extension by that. So over the course of 2 levy years, we lose access to $400,000, and that can be catastrophic for a school district if you don't try to capture all of the dollars that are available. Here's a little bit about the timeline. This starts in September. On September 1st, Gary Twist, who does a commendable job, and I heard that he is going to be retiring, so we're going to keep our fingers crossed and hopefully Gary's replacement keeps on with his current trends. But Gary has really done a commendable job giving us an estimate of our EAV on September 1st. And literally all the schools in Tazewell County get that estimate right around September 1st. And it really goes into our planning of trying to determine what our levy is. When you talk to other business officials from across the state, they are left guessing what their EAV is. They never do get an estimate. So kudos to Gary. And if he's not here next year, he'll be missed. So these are the other factors that Gary takes into consideration when he sends out that estimate. And I start the one at the bottom. So many of these are subject to changes made at the Board of Review level. And those are brought forward to the board. Anytime we have a Board of Review that exceeds more than $100,000, we bring that to the board for your eyes. And then last month, the board approved or adopted a resolution of budget estimates for revenues and expenditures and an aggregate levy for 1920. And here we are in December. Since our extension was less than 5%, we did not require a truth in taxation hearing. And then by the fourth Tuesday in December, I have to get this filed, so hopefully we get everything passed tonight, and Wednesday I'll take it down to the county clerk's office and get it stamped. Then the county clerk works on it for a few months, and about March, they will send us a tax computation report that basically says, this was your ask, please initial, verify this, and send it back to us. And we do that. And then in May, we receive the final tax computation report, and also the 2018 CPI, which is used for the planning of the 19 tax levy. And then from June through September, we receive the real estate taxes as our revenue, and then the whole process starts all over again. So that's it in about 4 minutes. So here's where we're at this year. The CPI was 2.1%. That was the exact same as last year. You'll note that our EAV dropped, and I've got a slide. The next one will show the comparison between 17 and 18. When I spoke with Gary, apparently there's about $4 million in exemptions that are for qualified vets, disabled vets that qualify for that in Washington. I was really shocked by that number. But some school districts all across Tazewell County, because that exemption went into place, that was the justification for reductions in the EAV. And our new property was down as compared to last year. And so those two factors go into it. So on this slide here, you can see the estimated tax rate, and I want to emphasize this is an estimated tax rate. It is going to be higher because we have overestimated it so that we can capture all of the property growth for this levy cycle. And so when we do a side-by-side comparison, you can see last year our estimated EAV was $513 million, so it's down just about $3.5 million. And that was consistent. Gary said it was about $4 million in those exemptions. But if you see your estimated new property, that was down, $10 million in that. So as you take a look at our tax rates here, this is a side-by-side comparison and the amount of dollars that it will generate. Realistically, we can ask for this, the $13.1 million. We're most likely not going to get that, okay? Because that is our strategy. I do want to point out, last year's tax rate for the bond and interest actually dropped because we did the restructuring, and when we did the restructuring, it actually lowered it for that first year because they had to do all the refinancing. But we should see the bond and interest rate stay right at about the 27 cents. And that was one of the strategies that when we brought in our bonding agent, they asked the finance committee, where are you looking at staying? And it was right at about that rate until some of the bonds start falling off, and then that rate will start to decrease. Okay? So that is all of our information. I do want to point out this last bullet here in a tax cap county. If you have a reduction in your EAV, then the rate will naturally go up, and vice versa. If you have an increase in your EAV, tax rate will go down. That is one of the side effects of having operations in a tax cap county. So that is our overall presentation. The board has all of the documents in front of them, and this is open to your questions now. Okay, we can move on to the action item.
Thank you for putting that together. It's not the first time that all of us have seen this information, so it's a lot to take into, and it's hard to explain to the public, so I just tell them to go ahead and look at your presentation.
And it's all out there. It's I will list it also on our website, and so there's some FAQs out there as well, one pager that goes into some more detail in regards to that.
That's actually really helpful because it's easier when it's all written out and just
It is.
look at that, and it's usually self-explanatory. So if there's no further question, the recommendation of the board approve the levy and the truth in taxation certificate as presented. Is there a motion to approve as presented? So
Second.
motion and second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Fisher,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essig,
Yes.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
McNabb.
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you. Moving on to 8.3 is approve the date for the goal planning session. And we've been talking about this a little bit, that we're trying to get a goal planning session together in January, but we need to approve a date. So the date is picked January 28th, 2019, which is hard to say already, 2019. To discuss the district goals for 2019-2020, is our motion to approve the special date meeting?
I agree. That's set at 5 p.m.,
Yes.
which helps.
sure we have that in the counter. Okay.
That was one, right?
Is there a motion to approve as presented?
So moved as presented.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Can you make it, Fran?
Yep.
Okay. Roll call,
Good.
please.
Butler,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essig,
Yes.
Knopfinger.
Yes.
McNabb,
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Motion carries on to 8.4, approve the 1% sales tax, county sales tax resolution. This was on the ballot before, and recommendation is to approve the resolution directing the regional superintendent of schools for the county of Tazewell County to certify that the county clerk of the said county question impose a retailer's occupation tax and a service occupation tax at the rate of 1%, to provide the revenue to be used exclusively for school facility purposes for the submission to the electors of the said county at the consolidated election to be held the second day in April 2019. Is there a motion to approve as recommended?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion?
I think the reason for that this might be a good time to share that reason, the rationale why we're bringing it back again, because Dr. Freeman just talked about that. And we know it failed the last time, so why would we be doing it again so soon? But there is definitely a reason.
Well, there were a few factors that play into this. The superintendents from all the schools in Tazewell County, we talked about getting it back on the ballot right away. One of the things that occurred at the last midterm election was you had an unusually large amount of people for a midterm election. By that I mean it was almost 50,000 more voters than the previous midterm where this had shown up. And so unfortunately I don't think that everywhere that there had been great communication on what the question really was. And so they want to try hitting it again to get that information out. I will tell you that the preliminary numbers that I've seen show that it passed in Washington, and that people here felt it would be good for the school and the community. So that's an easy one for us. I think that there are a couple other districts out there that are going to try getting the information out a little more, in a little more structured approach that might help them. So those were kind of the big ticket items that are out there. The question really is, and for us, as long as our voters are interested in seeing this occur, because it will save them in the long run, I think we should put it on the ballot every time. If our voters are voting for it, why wouldn't we? So that's kind of where most of the superintendents and boards are falling right now.
I think too, Dr. Green, sometimes this is public education.
Yes.
And I think sometimes when we get into any kind of a taxation issue, before people really hear, it's easy to have a negative feeling about it. But I think in Washington, there was a very good job done of really educating the public about what this was. A lot of people were contacted, a lot of education was available. This will give us one more time to actually extend that education. Perhaps some of those people who last time weren't aware of all the details it might be even more powerful in that they may be more willing with that information to go forward. I would hope. It's a positive way to look at it.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
McNabb,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essig. Yes.
Okay, motion carries. 8.5, and this is approving the new 2019-20 course proposals and curriculum revisions, and that was talked about briefly by Gloria earlier, and then also Ms. Billman. One of her classes anyway was on there. I don't know if any of you had a chance to look it over, but it's got some really nice changes and some exciting new classes on it. So the motion is to recommend the approval of the 2019-20 2020 new course proposals and curriculum revisions for the school year 2019-20 as presented. Is there a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Second. Motion and second. Any further discussion?
So a lot of these, as they were presented, are directed toward our goals. Things that we want to do to help students be more motivated, help them lean more toward their career choices and be better educated. I just saw a lot of our goals interwoven in the rationales for these that I thought was very continuing what we want to be and what we want to do.
Absolutely. Some of these are course title changes, and those are pretty simple. It's not a wholesale change to the course, but it's just a change to the title. For example, tagging on an AP to an honors, as in the physics class that you'll see in here. You see one, and Mrs. Stevens will tell me if I'm wrong. I know we have one new course, and that's yearbook.
We have 3 new courses. We also have 2 dual credit science courses that are being offered as well.
Right.
And I guess 2 replacement courses. They would be new, but we're really just taking an existing course, changing the title, and then updating the course.
So, as you hear, we do have a growing student population, so we do have some room to play, but we don't want to necessarily bring in constant new courses, because what you do is you squeeze out old courses. So our general discussion point has been, okay, if we're bringing in a new one, what are we removing? So that's been the direction we're at. The new science courses go right in line with this year's goals, which is AP honors and dual credit. We told you near the beginning of the year that we wanted to continue to push for some science dual credit and AP, and these are the responses, so we do feel a little more comfortable with where we're at now. We feel like over the last few years, we have seen a good jump in AP and dual credit courses through the school. And that was one of our goals for the last few years. We have talked about where we're going to go in the future with the whole concept of pathways and career education, and I think that will be something that we begin to focus on as we go into next year. So more to come on that.
What I noticed too, and as we talked about it in the report tonight, this isn't a top-down approach. It's highly coordinated between the teachers bringing ideas and changes they think are adequate, and the administration's working with them, and then the board be fully informed about all of these, so we can be on board too. And I think this constant evaluation of our curriculum is just so important, because things are changing out there. And I think this is just vital to be so aware of this very thing.
And Ms. Stevens, you did a nice job presenting that at the curriculum meeting. There was a lot of information to go through, and we answered a lot of questions. Is any further questions? And we can do roll call.
Fisher?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
Essing? Yes. Knopfinger?
Yes.
McNabb?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 8.6, as this is the discussion about the bleachers that we had in curriculum. And we are looking at 8.6 to approve a second vomitorium, which is also called a cutout by layman's. It's the actual word for architectural firms use. It's not what it says.
Sounds like a great headline.
Name of what it's called, but it is the cutout. We have 2 of them currently on our
I was thinking
bleachers.
about that.
So I just want to clarify that. I wasn't adding something we didn't already have. So this is coming from committee also, and so there's been a lot of time and discussion on this, so we have as it comes from committee, we don't see a motion in a second, but we will have discussion if anyone wants it more clarified.
If you remember on the original plans that we approved back in August, there was 1 ton coming through the bleachers.
Yes.
Yes, a vomitory. Going through the bleachers. Just, I can taste it. Anyway. So, this is just asking for a second one.
A nice cutout.
A nice little tongue cutout. We'll go with that. So that's what this is.
Yeah, it
like.
shouldn't affect anything, time frame or anything, it's just a change that after we studied over the plans, there were a couple little things that we thought might make them just a little bit nicer, so this is one of them.
It'll be able to move people a little more quickly and exit and enter and that type of thing. So,
And if you are wondering, 36 seats, that's all we'll lose
I think
for.
it's well worth it.
roll call, please.
Butler,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing,
Yes.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
McNabb,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you. Moving on to 8.7, and this is to approve and design for the sidewalk location. And that same discussion in the facilities committee meeting that had to do with the bleachers with the cutout. Because we're having another cutout, we need a sidewalk to direct the people through, back and forth to where they need to go. So we're just getting some engineering drawings for that sidewalk location, and that's coming from committee. Is there any questions? You want to explain that, where that's going, or?
Basically, you're just authorizing the engineers to do the engineering work on it.
Okay.
So,
And it'll connect the two vomitories
yes, it
ramps
will.
to the Pantherplex, but also go to the south end towards that.
Where the
center.
current ticket booth is
Okay.
on the lower left.
And then they could go down as well,
Yes.
around. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
McNabb,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing,
Yes.
And I'll throw this out there, just on the top of the hill, a number of people already use that area for a walk behind our current visitor bleachers. So they go from the ticket booth over towards the Pantherplex, because it's a little flat out there. That's where this is, that's where the discussion is for us. That's it. Sorry.
No, it's fine. And motion carries, and then we're going on to number 9, which is executive session. Is there a motion to convene into executive session to consider student disciplinary matters?
Five ILCS 1:1.
Okay, I guess I do read that. Thank you. Is there a motion to
I've never
go
heard
into
that word
executive
before,
session?
so.
Second, roll call, please.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing, Knopfinger,
Yes.
McNabb,
Yes.
Fisher,
Motion carries, and there's no action to follow. Is there a
I
motion
can't
to
beat the
adjourn?
headline they wrote.
Second.
I can't beat the headline they wrote for the manual story today. though.